take on this undertaking?
Well, the Fox and Friends experience was great. It was very helpful because it exposed the mission to a lot of people, and I was able to book a lot of states as a result of that. And I decided to do this just because I always wanted to sing the national anthem. I always wanted to do something good. I feel like everybody is given a talent, and you should do something to help other people with it. And when I realized the anthem was turning 200 on September 14th, my goal was already for a while to sing in all 50 states, but when I realized the anthem was turning 200, I said, I need to finish by then because it'll help raise awareness. It's kind of like when somebody runs a marathon, they're doing it to raise awareness for some type of cause. So this is sort of like my 50-state marathon.
That's terrific.
Great idea.
It's a patriotic marathon, as a matter of fact. The tie-in is very touching with the cards, the handheld notes. What kind of response have you gotten from our military?
It's been awesome. I've gotten to meet so many people from so many different walks of life, come to the table and sign a card. It's a blank card, you know, the front is filled out, but the inside is something that they have to come up. Each person that writes a card out, sometimes they'll say, what should I write? And I say, think about it. Take a minute and say, what would I like to tell somebody who's either deployed right now or somebody who's already served? And they have to, it's kind of a moment for them. Sometimes people end up spending about 10 minutes at that table writing something out, and it's an experience they may not have had any other way. What I love about it is it's linked to our national anthem. My whole mission is to talk about how the national anthem, I feel, the men and women who are keeping us safe right now or have kept us safe and sacrificed, whether it was their lives or an arm or just their time with their family, I feel they embody what the national anthem means. If it's not for those people, we wouldn't be able to sing that song. So that's science, I feel. Oh, I like that live audience. Thank you.
Janine, it's a daunting task. We're going to go over to our next graphic. It's a map of the United States. And correct us if we're wrong, but 41 of the 50 so far you've accomplished, correct?
Yes, I'm so happy about that. I'm on the home stretch. I'm actually a little sad, too, because it's been so much fun. But yeah, 9 left. You
know, one of them that you got out of the way was Alaska, and that's a toughie. Tell us about that one.
It wasn't that bad because I live in Los Angeles, so the flight wasn't horrible, and it was a lot of fun. I think I was up for the entire time I was there. I was only there for about 30 hours, but what was so fascinating is the sun does not really move, and it was like 8 o'clock, and it felt like it was like 2 in the afternoon. And when I got on the plane, it looked like it was just a little bit kind of like dusk. The sun never goes down, so. It was very interesting. I got to see some moose and amazing mountains. If anybody wants to look at my Instagram page, you'll see I caught like a whole bunch of mountains in a double rainbow. It was really cool.
Wow. You know, Janine, we know it costs a significant amount of money and a lot of time and effort on your part away from work, etc. We're going to give out the website, and that will link to everything else. If anybody of our viewers want to go over to the website and even make a donation, because it does cost money to do what you're doing, we're going to ask everyone to go over to www.nationalanthemgirl.org. That's your handle, National Anthem Girl.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You know what? We're going to go over to our next graphic again, and we're going to have illustrate you with our military and paying tribute. And we just would like to mention to our viewers that as you're coming down the wire, you're going to be in Vermont and then Maine, and then you have North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Kentucky, Michigan. Got a couple of more after that, but I think that is not necessarily etched in stone, but the goal is to accomplish it all by September 14th, correct?
Yes.
You did Janine, you did a flyover. Tell us about that.
Oh, man. I was on a plane headed to Red Lodge, Montana. Happened to be sitting next to a man who was doing the flyover for the parade. I was singing for the Red Lodge Rodeo, and he was doing the flyover. He has 2 World War II planes. They're trainer planes, and he and his friend of his were doing it. So he was telling me all about it, and I guess the look in my eyes was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And he said, do you want to come with me if your schedule allows? And I said, I would love to. So I got to. What was awesome was the rodeo was literally, I could jump the fence to get to the airport. And so it wasn't like I had to really arrange much. So we got to do a flyover. We blew smoke. We went in military procedure. We took off military procedure. I have most of these videos. And then after we were finished with the flyover, we kind of went our own way and flew over the Barrett Mountains. And then he asked me if I liked roller coasters. I said yes, and we ended up doing 2 loops. And I tried filming it, but I think the centrifugal force stopped my iPhone. Otherwise, I would have had that footage. But you could see the start of it. And then he asked if I wanted to fly a little more.
What?
And I thought he just meant, do you want to keep flying? So I said, yeah. So he lifted both of his hands off the controls. He's like, it's all you.
Oh, my. You have to be
So
kidding. Wow.
I guess that he gave me a quick little lesson, but of course it was a trainer plane, so we couldn't have crashed. He was watching, and I got to do some pretty cool maneuvers. He said I was doing some steep curves for a beginner.
Wow.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware.
Well, that's terrific.
Close in person.
But it was really fun. Experiences like this I'll just never ever forget. And Montana singing, I sang in Montana for the 4th of July, which was of course an unforgettable experience. The backdrop and the mountains, and it's just a gorgeous area. So I was very grateful for that.
Wow. That's amazing. Janine, tell us, because this is a sports show, but it does tie in, because what happens before every sporting event in this country, right? Nothing begins. And you've been fortunate enough, you sang before a Knick game, Madison Square Garden, net game.
Yeah.
I think you had a funny story with Kevin Durant. Share that one with us if you could.
Well, the funny thing is yes, the national anthem is something that we sing before every sporting event, and people would probably think I'm very into sports. It's not, and by the way, I'm a Yankee fan. I should say that.
All right.
But I saw that that's your Twitter handle, so I figured I'd throw that in. But I don't know much about the different players. I don't really have the time to follow it. So I was singing at Barclays Center for the Brooklyn Nets, and I happened to be standing next to Kevin Durant and had no clue who he was. So a couple people saw some photos I had taken, and they're like, you were right next to him? I was like, who is he? So everybody's kind of upset with me. And sometimes it happens every once in a while because, I'm standing on sidelines, I'm standing in, by locker rooms, all these different places. And I'm sure if somebody that was a huge, maybe like if you were standing next to me for all these things, you'd be pointing out things that I just don't notice. And, it's funny, but that's what happens.
That's a cute. You know what, Janine, we're going to ask you. We want to thank you for your time, but just 2 things before we let you go. If you had to pick one touching moment with the military cards, maybe a child coming up to you or something that just caught you off guard, and just maybe where you stood back and you said, "Wow, this is so rewarding." Was there one kind of incident that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. There was one that is more recent, so it's something that it's right on the top of my mind. When I was in Montana, I was a lot of people coming up signing cards, and there was an older gentleman. He came up to me, and he was talking about how much the national anthem meant to him, and I asked him if he served, and he said no, he hadn't, but he regrets it every day of his life. And he went on to say that he had friends who back in the day went to serve, and he stayed back because he had to take a job to take care of his family, and he felt that was the thing to do. And he said that there were a lot of his buddies who did not come home, and he got really choked up, and you could just tell that obviously he missed them, and this meant so much to him. And I'll never forget, he actually walked away because my papers were blowing around, the thank you cards were blowing around. And he said, you need a rock. And he walked away, came back, put a rock on top of those thank you cards. And it just felt like to me that it wasn't that he was just doing it to help the papers not fly around. He was doing it in honor of his friends who had made the ultimate sacrifice. And I still have that rock. It's on my desk in my office. I'll keep it forever. But, people are impacted by, different moments, different experiences. So it's just my hope that this whole journey is creating a dialogue for people. There's a lot of times people explain to their children what patriotism means, and they sign cards and they walk away knowing a veteran or, somebody who is right now fighting and keeping us safe. It's important to have that because generations to come, we're not always hit home. Things don't always hit home with us, except if people pass it on and explain the value of freedom. So hopefully this does that. And
Get any better than that?
Janine, I'm going to impose on you for one more favor, and then after that, I'll say thank you. But I do want to apologize in advance because you were good enough to send me an MP3 audio disc of your rendition of the national anthem in studio, and it takes your breath away. And I have to apologize because I screwed up when I attempted to give it to our producers. I did not, download it correctly, so I apologize. So with that in mind, and only for that reason alone, I'm going to just ask you if you could just give us the big finish, and if you can just, over the phone, if you could just put us all into the mood by giving us maybe the last line or two of our national anthem, and then we're going to thank you.
Oh, absolutely, no problem. Hopefully through the cell phone it doesn't get distorted, but here we go. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Wow.
Right.
Hopefully no distortion happens.
Janine, that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
We thank you so much, and from the heart, we want to say one girl, one song, 50 states, all in the name of patriotism.
Yeah.
Janine Stange, thank you for doing the show.
Oh, thank you.
God bless you. God bless our military, and God bless America.
America.
Amen.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.